Good evening, everybody, and welcome to an episode of Third and Short Overtime. It's been a long time since we've done one of these. It's been hard to pinpoint us all together, and even now, there's only me and Mark. Bones is behind the scenes doing the work behind the scenes, and he's a bit not feeling 100%. So hopefully, we'll be back on next week. But he's doing us a solid and helping us out because me and Mark are absolutely useless when it comes to technology. JP's not here; he couldn't be here, but JP's team's still going strong in the playoffs, so, which was a kind of a surprise. I'm obviously not surprised after the game because Cowboys were awful, but they're still going strong. Mine, Mark's and Bones' team are gone, so we're concentrating on the off-season, and that's why we're here tonight. We're going to look at the first 24 picks of the draft that have been sorted. You know, it's obviously very early. You know, things are going to change. Free agency, there's still head coaches and GMs to announce, but I know Mark loves talking draft. I think most people do if they love the game. So it's never too early to talk, even if it's a lot of it's guesswork, and just try to pinpoint and just throwing ideas out there and just having a talk. Obviously, yep, let's jump straight into the draft. You know, Mark, obviously, let's look before we jump into the first 24 picks. Obviously, I'm going to take the odd. Mark's going to take the even, and we'll just discuss through it all. But position groups, obviously, there's a lot of talk of the quarterback being quite not as good as last year, and obviously better in the future next year, especially. Obviously, other groups as well. What stands out to you in this when it comes to groups?
Well, you know that I'm a secondary guy, Jordan. So I've been watching secondary players pretty much for the last 3 months already, and watching tape and looking at players who I like all the way through the process, like Kaiir Elam and Trent McDuffie, Ahmed Gardner. So I think that the cornerback group this year is very deep. I think that there's 10 day one and day two corners who will come off the board in the first 2 rounds. I've got a couple of sleepers in there. I'll not bring them up just yet, but I've got a couple of sleepers in there myself, who I like the length and I like the athleticism of. So I think if you're looking for a corner this year, and I'm always of the value anyway of always draft corners and always draft wide receivers. And my reason for that is because you need a stable of them. You need lots of them as the season goes on. They're the 2 deepest positional groups on the roster. You normally carry at least 5 or at least 6 of each, you know. So why not stack up with them at the top of the round, at the top of the draft? And there's lots to pick from this year. There's a little bit of everything that you want. I've got a few favourites out of that. I'm not going to give them away yet because I don't want you nipping in and getting them. But yeah, I think that class is deep. On the flip side, this is kind of like the transition to the college game, which is becoming air raid and lots of wide offenses. The wide receiver class is deep again. So obviously you've got college teams who are trying to stop the pass. You've got college teams who are trying to make the pass, which is why you've got dead stacked cornerback groupings and dead stacked wide receiver groupings. We saw it last year and we'll see it again this year. The wide receiver class is deep again. I don't think you've got the household name talent like of like a Jamar Chase. You know what I mean? But you've got some really good talent in there. Drake London, Treylon Burks, you know, Johan Dotson, the 2 guys from Ohio, Wilson and Olive. And it depends really what kind of wide receiver you want, but I think that is a really deep pool as well. On the flip side, if shallow pools so far, I don't know about you, Jordan, but I do not rate this year's defensive tackle class. We've seen better defensive tackles come into the NFL in Quinnen Williams and Derek Brown and struggle. It's a positional group which is hard. It takes you almost 2 or 3 seasons to get used to the NFL and DT. And I don't really rate this DT class outside of, you know, like Davis or someone like that, you know. And even he's only going to be a 2-down defensive tackle. But it looks a bit light on 3-tech defensive tackles, more importantly. I don't know what you feel are strong positional groups, but there's 2 strong 1 week for me.
No, I agree with them too. I'm glad you mentioned wide receiver because it is deep. Like obviously you've got your, I think me and you agreed on our top 5 again. We obviously won't say, but after the top 5, there's still some good players there. And like you mentioned, the defensive tackle there, you've got like for me 1 standout, and then the rest is just like bunched together. So, but I think safety class. I know you mentioned off air, you've watched this a lot. You've got the one standout, but after that, like I know a few of them have gone back, like Jordan Battle now, which I thought he might have come in, but obviously he's gone back to Alabama wanting to win another natty. But I think the safety class is decent behind it as well. You know, like behind that one standout guy, and it's the mock's so interesting. The draft, is so interesting because like the safety and the corner and the quarterbacks. Obviously, it's not the quarterback, especially, is not as good as what it has been in the years before. But that being said, when is the right time to hit and stuff? You know, like obviously, you've got teams up in that top 10 who, without GMs and without head coach at the moment, that might not like their cornerbacks. You know, there's quite like obviously the Giants and the Panthers. You know, but when is the right? Do they see these quarterbacks as better than what they have now? So will they hit early, or are we going to see quarterbacks pushed out past round 10? It seems like I'm not expecting that. I feel like they will hit on some of these cornerbacks because I think there is more upside to the players they've got. And same with safeties. Obviously, that main guy is going to go off the board. And there's a few teams that need safeties. Are we going to see more safeties going in the top 20 when really they should be outside the top 20 because it's a need? Or is it going to be for best pick available? So it's a really interesting draft this year. I don't know. Like, obviously, we'll see. As mentioned at the top of the episode, you know, there's going to be free agency and things will pan out better where we can see where people may go. But it is going to be interesting to see how teams tackle this draft because it's, like you said, there's some deep classes, but it's just so messy, I would say. You know, there's some good blue chip players at the top, but it could go either way with a lot. You know, like if people have a run on cornerbacks, are they going to think, oh well, I need some cornerbacks. There's not that many top ones. Am I going to take these, or are they going to take the best player available? You know, it's an interesting one.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird, this draft class. I've watched quite a lot of this draft class now. I've watched the majority of those we're going to talk about tonight. If not scouted them, I've watched them in games. And I think that the most polished prospects in this draft so far are coming in at offensive tackle. I think there's 3, arguably 4 really good offensive tackles. So I expect to start day one and, you know, like start at a reasonable level. Kyle Hamilton, the safety you're talking about, is a fucking freak of nature. I think he can have like Derwin James like potential and line up pretty much anywhere you want him to on an NFL football field. He's good in coverage. He can chase and tackle. He can blitz. He can play nickel. You know, like he's a very good corner. And also Daxton Hill for Michigan as well. He's another one of those, you know, like safeties who can play in nickel situations, but also play high. So there is some good talent out there. I think what we're lacking this year is we're lacking that, like after last year's class where we had so many quarterbacks and we had so many players that had been on the radar for so long come in. You know what I mean? We had some big players come in. I think this year you've just got to scratch the surface a little bit more with your scouting. But there is talent there, Jordan. I just don't think that there's going to be a Micah Parsons who's just going to come in and hit the ground running straight away. I think what you're going to see is you're going to see more quitty pay types who are coming in and then doing better in the second half of the season. You know what I mean? I think it's really a little bit more of projection. And I don't know if that's as a result of last year's college games not being played so much. Development has been late. You know, like that. Like, you know, you're looking at the talent who sat out last year and who still went high. I'm thinking Jamar Chase off the top of my head. Penny Sewell is another. They'd done a lot of their tape in 2019 before the 19-20 before the 2020-21 draft. This team, a lot of these didn't play last year. They've missed a year of development, and I think it stands that way because there isn't a massive, this kid is separated himself. There's a lot of grouping. For example, Aiden Hutchinson's had a good season, and for some people, he's edge number 1. But then you've got Thibodeau, who people have been watching since 2019, 2020. You know what I mean? And people are talking about him. But when you look at the two of them together, there's still a little bit of projection in both of those. It doesn't feel like you're getting a Myles Garrett or a Nick Bosa, for example. You know what I mean, Jordan?
Yeah, I think you mentioned Micah Parsons then. I think for me personally, I don't know however people see it. There's not as many I think there's like 4, maybe 5 blue chip players, like not straight away, but going on. But if you want about straight away, I think you mentioned him, Kyle Hamilton is the only guy I think that could burst onto the scene quick and I'd be like confident in saying he could do a job straight away. Obviously, Micah Parsons set the bar so high, like with what he's done this year. But Kyle Hamilton, I think and obviously I know he's missed a few games this year. I think he's a player that could propel a team on that back. And we saw some amazing safety play this weekend. Jesse Bates and the guy from the Bills with that pick. I really like him as a prospect, and it's going to be interesting to see how high he actually goes. Obviously, I think I don't think a safety's. You might correct me on this, Mark. Is it safety never been higher than 8? Is it 10 or something like that in the top 10?
I'm thinking maybe Sean Taylor was maybe the highest safety ever taken. So what position was Sean Taylor taken when he was taken out? We'll have a quick look. I've got my laptop here. I'm ever the professional. Sean Taylor, American football safety, was taken number 5 overall. So I think him and Eric Berry were the 2 highest safeties ever taken. And I know that Eric Berry was taken number 5 without checking. So Sean Taylor and Eric Berry are the only 2 safeties to have been taken in the top 5, I'm going to say.
Yeah, there's a chance. Like I can't see him I can't see him escaping out of the top 10 definitely, but there is a chance he can go top 5, and it'll depend on if people want to see him as taking that stab at him and going right. I'm going for him. There's a lot of teams in that top who think I've got more pressing needs, but how can I miss out on such a talent like Kyle Hamilton? So, do you want to get into it?
Yeah, let's get into it. Let's start picking. You've got the first.
I've got the first.
Put the Jacksonville Jaguars on the clock. Jordan, you're the GM. I'm your assistant in this case. You're the GM. You've got the number 1 pick. First of all, are you exploring a trade?
I would be putting the feelers out there. Definitely. It never hurts to see what people are going to offer you. Looking at it, are people going to trade up for one of the top 2 edges? I'm not sure. Or if we get closer, is someone going to get a not very likely, but you never know in the draft. People do crazy things, and are people going to see? You've got the Senior Bowl, you've got like the Detroit Lions and the New York Jets looking closely. Are they going to see some of these players, especially the Lions? Are they going to trade up and get a quarterback? Sorry, probably not. But you just don't know. So you've got to put the feelers out there to see. But I wouldn't say anyone at this moment in time. I can't see anyone jumping up and taking the pick off the Jaguars. So then I would be looking at what I've got on the table. Obviously, offensive line. Cam Robinson is going to be a free agent. He's not been the greatest for Jacksonville. So do they let him go? Do they let him explore other options? Do they try and bring him back on a lesser deal? Because I believe they put the tag on him this year. And they've got they drafted Walker Little last year. Came second round, who came in. He can do a job there, and they can look at free agency for tackles. Evan Neal is a good player. They could be looking at Evan Neal. He's a good player, but like you mentioned, I think there's some good tackles on the board later on, and I don't necessarily think Evan Neal is a first pick in the first round myself. I look at Kayvon Thibodeau, and I think that Aiden Hutchinson, I think they would be better options for Jacksonville Jaguars because they obviously need help at the edge, and I think they can address the offensive line in free agency. And obviously, like I say, Walker Little was a second round pick. So that's my personal opinion. I don't think Evan Neal is the option here. So I think it's one of the two edge players. I don't know how you feel about that, Mark, but
I like Evan Neal's versatility. I think if he doesn't work at left tackle, he's going to work at one of the guard positions or right tackle. However, in the same breath, if you're spending the number 1 pick, you know what I mean, on someone, you want someone who's got the potential to be a transcendental talent. You know what I mean? And I'm saying that the guy who we're considering number 1, if he doesn't feel at left tackle, could play right tackle or one of the guard spots. I kind of tells you how I feel about the talent of Evan Neal. Personally, I think they have three needs, Jacksonville. They have offensive tackle need, they have an edge need, and they have a cornerback need. And I'm thinking, where can they get the best talent for that pick? You know what I feel about edges and how edges on bad teams don't really make a difference? Because if you're a bad team, you haven't got a lead, which means your pass rush and edge never gets an opportunity to rush the passer because they're running it to run out the lead. But in this case, given what else is around, I'm going to be, if I was you, I would be considering either Aiden Hutchinson or Kayvon Thibodeau.
Yeah, like I say, exactly right. You know, I think, like you mentioned at the top, the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to come back around the second round, and there could be someone there that they can pick up at cornerback, you know, or even if obviously offensive line, but you just don't know what's going to happen. But I think, looking at these two, I might be a little bit biased with being Pac-12, but I just can't see why would you pass on Kayvon Thibodeau. You know, he's still got a lot of things to work out, but especially like adding, like I think we've mentioned in the past, adding a few, you know, rushing moves to, you know, he tends to just absolutely boulder into offensive linemen, which works at college. He's fantastic. His get off and his handwork, you know, he's brilliant. But he tends to bull rush more, so there is a lot of work to do there. But the ceiling's so high for Kayvon Thibodeau. I think they've got to draft him first. And I will say that I wouldn't argue if they did pick if obviously they actually went Aiden Hutchinson. I won't grumble too much, but my personal opinion, I think Kayvon Thibodeau has a very big ceiling, and if he can hit that, you've got a fantastic player there.
Yeah, so we're locking it in. You're going Thibodeau. Personally, I think I would have went for Hutchinson. What I would say about Thibodeau is pass rushing grade by PFF has got better every single year. It's up to 83 or 84 this year. He's explosive. He's long. He can bend edges. He is a pressure machine. He had 46 pressures this year. And that was with his, you know, like limited pass rushing sets and tools. So you've got to think, like, if you can put that all together, what are you going to get? It's a bit of a projection. I think it's a risky pick, Aiden Hutchinson. But look, your logic stands when you look at his statistics. So we're locking it in. You're going Kayvon Thibodeau with the first pick if you were the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, Kayvon Thibodeau, Detroit Lions are on the clock.
So that brings the Detroit Lions on the clock. And I'm looking specifically with the Detroit Lions at two areas of need. I'm thinking, one, they need a defensive linchpin, somebody who can be the leader of that defense. I do think that their secondary improved as the year went on. But I'm thinking they need somebody who can play in space, who can roam sideline to sideline, who can hit, who can tackle, who can chase, who can drop down to the line of scrimmage, as well as covering a quarter, who's smart enough to wear the green dot on his helmet and will be the focal point of the defense. So I'm thinking, is this too early for Kyle Hamilton? On the flip side, I'm thinking you've got an in-state talent who I expected to be gone by now, and that's Aiden Hutchinson. What the fans are going to like him. He's got talent. He's another one of those players whose PFF grade has improved year upon year. He had a PFF grade, Jordan, this year of like 94.5, which is freaky. He's been playing really good football all season. He played it against Ohio State. He finished that game with 15 pressures against Ohio State. You know what I mean? It's a tough one. It's a tough one because ultimately, I do think that number 2 is probably too high to go for a safety. Although I would personally go fuck it and put a safety in there. Logically, I'm thinking hard because I'm so enamored with Kyle Hamilton's skill set. What do you think, Jordan, out of them two?
I'm in agreement with like what you're saying about Kyle Hamilton. Is it too high? For me, I'm not sure if it is because he's such a talent. You know, we've seen, like I said over the weekend, you know, with I think it was Hyde, won it with the interception, and Jesse Bates, how important safeties are on this coverage, and he is he's got all the capabilities to be an elite safety, like just a leader on that back. So I don't think it's too high to go for him personally. But if I'm thinking, taking it away from me, and I'm thinking what the Detroit Lions would do, like you said, you've got an in-state talent there. The fans will be buzzing if they take Aiden Hutchinson. They will love Dan Campbell. And not just that, they're getting an absolute beast, like there, someone that fits that Dan Campbell mentality. He's got they'll work, work perfectly. So if Aiden Hutchinson is on the board at 2, I can't see why they wouldn't take him. It just makes sense all around.
Yeah, I mean, it goes against everything that I've done to build a roster in my head. You know what I'm like? I kind of think the Lions are a bad team. How much opportunity will Aiden Hutchinson get? But then I remember he's a very well-rounded edge. He can play the run. You know what I mean? He can play the run. He can add something to that defensive line, regardless of his pass rushing and how much pass rushing stats he gets. So if Kayvon Thibodeau was still here on this board, I'd have took Kyle Hamilton. But the fact that it's Aiden Hutchinson, he's got a well-rounded game. He can bring something in the pass rush as well as in the run stopping. He's the local boy. Lock it in. God, I know why GM's fucked this up now because I've just went back on what I thought my pick was going to be. But I'm going to put in Aiden Hutchinson there. And I'm sure Bones is going to rib his non-stop in the chat because for the last 6 months I've been banging on about Kyle Hamilton. But there you go. There's a shock. I'm popping Aiden Hutchinson in.
It's like you just said though, there, Mark. It's as a GM, you've got you're looking at like what your fit is, what your scheme is. Looking at these players. But after all that, you've got the emotion of like different things as well. And obviously, he lead up to the draft. I know you try and stay away from fans and you try to stay away from stuff, but how much talk will be Aiden Hutchinson at Detroit? All this, Michigan lad, and it's hard not. When you look at it, it's hard to not take him, in my opinion. I know, like you said, it's going against probably, and then against what with Kyle Hamilton getting and bulking that, back up. But I just don't know how you can not take him.
Look, I've stressed so much about that pick. I've had to light up a cigarette.
Anyway, we'll move on then. If it's stressing you out, we'll move on before you can't change your mind. It's locked in. But so that comes on to me with the Houston Texans, and Houston Texans. They obviously safety is a big option. It might be if you go back week 13, 14, I think it was maybe. It probably would have been quarterback, and with a new thingy coming in, head coach, it might still be. But Davis Mills, for me, kind of did enough to see him out for another year, I think, especially with the quarterback talent you've got on the show here. Are any of these actually definitely going to be better than Mills? I think he showed enough at the end just to give him a chance. And a few of the wide, like Nika Collins and Brevin Jordan, were stepping up at the back end. We've obviously got Brandon Cooks there. So obviously, again, I'm looking at safety at Kyle Hamilton, but I'm looking at offensive line as well. And Evan Neal, maybe Houston Texans are surprised that he hasn't gone off number one, to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Obviously, we didn't see Larry Tunsil at all this year. I don't know what's going to happen with him. I think he had surgery on a thumb or something. So obviously, he might be back next year. I think he's got a couple of years, maybe at least 1 year on his contract. I think it's 2. So if Larry Tunsil comes back, you've got to try and give as much help as you can to Davis Mills if you're sticking with him, for me personally. And they even got Deshaun Watson there. They could even pick up another first rounder from Deshaun Watson to look at other stuff later on. Obviously, that's stuff that's going to happen later. Obviously, we don't know if that's going to happen, but potentially. So me personally, it's between the top two left in the things. So I'm not sure how you feel the Texans should go, Mark, but that's where I'm at the moment.
I'm looking at the depth chart. They've obviously got a left tackle, Jeremy Tunsil. They're not going to want to pick anybody for left tackle. They gave up that much capital for him. He's going to be starting left tackle. Right tackle. Titus Howard was a draft pick for them a couple of years ago, who was on that depth chart of right tackle. Would they want to give up on Titus Howard and put Evan Neal there at right tackle already? It's logical they could do. Or they're taking Evan Neal and they're putting me on the interior of the offensive line. Or they're playing them left guard, for example, alongside Glavin returns up. I think I would take Evan Neal off the board and I wouldn't consider drafting an offensive line at this moment in time for them. Right then, so what's the other areas of need? I'm thinking they could also do with an edge, but there's none there who are there. They could do with a corner, certainly do with a corner. They could do with a safety. They could do with a wide receiver. Brandon Cooks is there. Nico Collins is there. This is probably too high to take a wide receiver. So I'm coming back to the other two positions, cornerback and safety. And I'm thinking Stingley or Hamilton. I agree with Davis Mills. They're not a quarterback away from being a good team. They're a terrible team. That's why they're picking third. They need foundational pieces. They need pieces that are going to go on that roster and breed a new culture and be there and be foundational pieces in 3 years' time, not today. So I'm thinking definitely not a quarterback. I'm thinking right with Davis Mills. If you feel next year, come back, get Bryce Young, get one of the quarterbacks next year. So I would only be considering one of the corners or Kyle Hamilton, the safety, if I was you, Jordan.
Yeah. No, I agree. Me thinking about what they may do, I won't be surprised if they do take Evan Neal here. You know, like looking at, I don't know what's going to happen with Larry Tunsil. He played a few games this year, but then he hadn't seen him since, and no one's heard of him since. Like there's been no talk of him, so that won't surprise me. But obviously, it's me that's the GM here today. So Kyle Hamilton is still on the board, so I've got to take Kyle Hamilton. Although the cornerback class is very good, I think it's like we mentioned at the top. It's deep. Kyle Hamilton is a standout safety. He's going to make that defense so much better. Even though they've got still a lot to build on, it's going to make it so much better with what he can do. And he's going to come straight in, and he's going to be brilliant for him. And he's like,
I think Hamilton's a good pick. I think he's a tone setter. He's a culture changer. I think he's going to be a good pick. I think Houston would be delighted. It's the highest the safety's gone, but I think Houston are going to be pleased that they got him.
Yeah.
Right, and so that's locked in. Kyle Hamilton. So we've 3 picks. Gone Thibodeau, Hutchinson, Hamilton. Right then. The 4th player on my big board is someone I've loved since I've ever seen him play, which is Derek Stingley Jr. Obviously, there's been some knocks about Derek Stingley Jr., namely his availability. But one thing that is going in Derek Stingley Jr.'s favour is his ability when he has been on the field. I think that the Jets, had Kyle Hamilton been on the board, would certainly have took him. However, he's not. They do need a pass rusher. Daryl Ojabo is a player I am a fan of, but he is very raw. He is a projection. Whilst he is going to be very good in pass rush straight away, he is going to need refinement on the run game. I'm guessing the Jets, although with all these draft picks, they'll probably think they can push more towards 500 or just above. However, I'm really only looking at Derek Stingley in this one, or Evan Neal if I want to play him at right tackle.
Yeah, I think like you mentioned with Stingley, obviously his 2019 tape is absolutely unreal. Why he's still talked about now, because 2020 he didn't get on the field. 2021 he played 2 or 3 a handful of games and he got injured and we didn't see him again. So everything is thrown back to his 2019 tape, which is obviously 2 years ago. But it was that good. That's why he's still talked about so high in the draft. And for me, I obviously Booth has had a good run, for Clemson. He's had a good year. The opposite, really. He's had a really good year to propel him up. But I still think Stingley's up there, and he's gonna be big. Obviously, you've got is it Bryce Hall? Is it Bryce Hall?
Bryce Hall from Virginia.
You've got Bryce Hall at the Jets at the moment. So if you pair him up with Stingley, That's a nice pair of corners, isn't it, to have?
Yeah. I do like Stingley. I still do believe the hype in Stingley. His 2019 team was just that good. LSU were bin fire this year. They were terrible. I don't blame him for living off that injury and just coming out and protecting himself for the draft. He's uber talented. I don't think it'll make a difference that he's not played that much college football over the last 2 years. So yeah, Derek Stingley's going to be me pick, Jordan.
That's fair. I like that pick. You know, like he's still my number one cornerback at the moment. Like I do like Andrew Booth, but I think Derek Stingley for me. I would have picked the same there. I think he's if we saw what we saw in 2019 and he brings that to NFL, he's a lockdown cornerback for sure. Well, moving on to the New York Giants, and obviously Tom will be watching with. I don't know if he's watching now. He'll be watching it later with eager eyes. We all know what the Giants need more than anything, and that's obviously offensive line help. Is Daniel Jones the answer? Are they going to pick up his 5th year? Me personally, I don't think he's the answer. But I look at this quarterback class, and I'm thinking, is there a big upgrade on Daniel Jones at the moment? You know, and for me, there isn't. You know, so obviously the new head coach might think differently, but me personally, I don't think there is. So I'm looking at offensive line. Yeah, they could do with. I know they picked up Azeez Ojulari, but they could maybe pick an edge as well. But I can't see past offensive line. You know, it's got to be an offensive line pick here. And Evan Neal is still on the board. You know, it's a guy that maybe is surprising to the Giants that he's still there. I'm a big fan of Charles Cross, though, from Mississippi State. You know, I think he's a really good tackle as well. But would you see any other way where the Giants had to go and pick anyone else apart from an offensive lineman here, Mark?
I think it's got to be offensive line, and I think, look, they've got a left tackle who's playing well. They need a right tackle. Evan Neal played Bama, right tackle for long enough. He played it at a high standard. At this point, they just need talent on that line. You know what I mean? So I think it's got to be an offensive line player. Charles Cross, whilst I like, is better suited to being a left tackle than he is a right tackle. Because they're looking for someone to play on the right-hand side, my choice would be Neal as well, Jordan.
Yeah, I think the fact that he's still there at 5, I think Giants obviously would like Evan Neal, but I think they might have been surprised. I thought he might have been picked up by 1 or 2. So I think you're right. I think Andrew Thomas got better at the back end of the year, and obviously Evan Neal can play left tackle, but he can obviously play over to the right, and that's protecting both sides. For Daniel Jones, who might not be the future, but it's a building blocks, you know, for that offensive line, to give him another year, see if he can do anything. I know Tom's a big fan. Me personally, I'm not, but we're going to slide Evan Neal in there and strengthen that offensive line. Which leads us on to your second team, doesn't it, Mark? The Carolina Panthers.
The Carolina Panthers are another team who desperately need an offensive tackle. And there's Charles Cross there for Mississippi State. I'm a big fan of Charles Cross. I think he's probably a very, very, very polished, very good left tackle prospect. But another player who I really like is Ikem Ekwonu. I can't pronounce that kid's name. The NC State left tackle. He is a brute and a bully. I think he's very mean. I think he's got a really nasty demeanor about him. He's a 3-star prospect. He's a junior. He'll be coming in very young. He is 6'4" and 320 pounds. He hasn't got necessarily the length that you want on offensive tackle, but what he lacks in length, he makes up an absolute meanness. He's been starting left tackle for North Carolina State since he was a true freshman. So that's 2019. He was playing games there. It's like an 18, 19-year-old. You know what I mean, Jordan? This kid's going to be like 21 coming into the draft. I think he starts left tackle. I think he suits what Carolina want to do. He comes from North Carolina, NC State. I think they're going to want to run the ball behind McCaffrey. He's going to bulldoze people at left tackle in the run game. I think he fits that wide zone rushing attack that they want to do. Evan Neal's come off the board. I'm going to take this kid above Charles Cross. I'm going to take Ikem Ekwonu.
So they strengthen up that offensive line. So obviously you can see there, Ryan said any chance Neal falls, obviously. And how much difference is there in ability between these two and the ceiling, with Neal and Ekwonu?
Well, I mean, I was listening to Mel Kiper earlier on, and Mel Kiper's got Ekwonu as their number one left tackle. They talked about some of the scouts in the NFL not being too enamored with Evan Neal, thinking whilst he's solid, his floor is quite high, but his ceiling is what it's going to be because he's a Bama lineman where they get such NFL coaching. Ekwonu could really excel, coming out of NC State, going into an NFL franchise where he's going to get improved. And he's young, 21. You know what I mean? There's like Mel Kiper Jr., who is, I suppose, the godfather of the draft and draft analysts. He has him as number one, as his number one offensive tackle prospect. PFF have him as their third behind Evan Neal and Charles Cross. I've put him in purely because of the fit with Carolina, how they're going to use McCaffrey, how they might want to attack wide zones. And this kid will destroy you at run blocking. So that's why I've taken him, Jordan.
Just quickly before we move on, any consideration of quarterback here, or is it just not? Is it just stick with Sam Darnold or try and obviously you've got free agent stuff? Is there any chance of one coming off a board here instead?
There was. I mean, I thought about it.
How long?
I thought about it, but ultimately no. You need to get that offensive line sorted first and foremost. If I was a Carolina Panthers,
that's fair. So obviously the Giants are back on again. Two first-round picks in the top 7. We've got Evan Neal, strength in the offensive line. They're a mess out there, the Giants. They're a bit of a mess. They've got quite a few needs, but am I crazy, Mark, in thinking Tyler Linderbaum at number 7? A centre that don't normally go this high. I've already picked an offensive lineman, but is it crazy to think that Tyler Linderbaum, another a centre, going at number 7?
I mean, Tyler Linderbaum was bloody special. You know what I mean? You're talking like the centre version of Quentin Nelson. You're talking about somebody who's been the highest graded centre that PFF's ever looked at. You know how much I love PFF grading. This kid's unbelievable. If you think Tristan Wirfs has got out of Iowa, go watch tape where Tyler Linderbaum spanks him in wrestling. You know what I mean? And this kid, Tristan Wirfs, has just become a Pro Bowler. I think he was a Pro Bowler in his rookie year and a Pro Bowler in his second year. And he's done and he's won a Super Bowl at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If I was going to take a centre in the top 10, this would be the kid I would take. The only other options really are edge, aren't there? You've already took an offensive lineman. What do? Do you double down on offensive line and build through the trenches? Or do you consider someone like Karlaftis or someone like Ajabo?
Yeah, that's my thinking. That's why I'm bringing him up, because I do like George Karlaftis, but I'm thinking this offensive line's that bad. We need to strengthen it as much as we can. And for how good George Karlaftis is, I think the edge position can wait. What the upside you get with Linderbaum compared to Karlaftis is going to be a lot better for the Giants in the situation. Like I said, they're way off the Giants, but if they can add 2 offensive pieces to that line, then see what they can do later on in the draft with like an edge, with some good edges that they could be picking up in the second round. even trying some hits in the third and fourth. So me personally, I would be taking Tyler Linderbaum, and that's what I'm going to do. It might not be the flashiest of picks, like picking 2 offensive linemen, but that's what the Giants need, in my opinion. If Daniel Jones is going to be, if we're going to stick with Daniel Jones, then let's give him all the protection we can, because he's had none so far. So Tyler Linderbaum is going to go with Evan Neal, and they've got the building blocks of a fantastic offensive line there.
Yeah, they've got, when you think about it, Jordan, they've got a young left tackle in Andrew Thomas. They've just got a young right tackle in Evan Neal in this draft. And now they've just added Tyler Linderbaum. That makes that offensive line a cheap positional group. It means you can spend money elsewhere. It also means, for example, that if they want to, make a splash and they want to go get, not in this case because their firsts have gone, but, if they wanted to try and explore something for Russell Wilson, they might be able to using draft capital down the line. You know what I mean? I don't know how bold your Seahawks would be to go, yeah, we'll take the 2023 draft first and the 2024, they might want picks this year. But I do like the idea of them going offensive line and offensive line.
Yeah, I think that's it. I don't see him going for Russell Wilson personally. I know I never say never, but that's the thing. It's like you said there. Once their offensive line needs a lot of work, and if you can get that in the first 2 picks, I don't know what the draft. I think they're losing a lot of players this year, and I think the cap salary is not great, but obviously they can work around that. They can go out and explore free agency, and I think there's some good players in there, to pick up and add through there. Offensive line's done. Daniel Jones, let's just stick with him for a year and see what he can do. There's a lot of people that still think he's good, but I remember when he got picked, a lot of people were saying he's a 3rd rounder. So, but we'll leave that to another day because we could get deep into that. But yeah, I love them picks, and we'll move on to for you the Atlanta Falcons, who are another team that need a bit of work.
Yeah, another team who need a bit of work, to say the least. Several needs again for them. Edge, inside defensive line, probably the 2 standout ones. So I'm looking for somebody on the defensive line. I want to bring up David Ojabo for Michigan, the other edge rusher, who I would say at this moment in time is a pure pass rush specialist. He's got great bend. The kid's an athletic freak. He is very, very raw. Very, very, very raw. Now, the Falcons, I don't know how put off they're going to be about this because they went on raw, athletic defensive ends in the past and missed on a few. But I do think that it's a glaring need. So David Ojabo is probably the name that I'm thinking. If you were going to go edge, Jordan, would Ojabo be your next one off the board in this situation?
Yeah. As much as I like George Kalafdis, I think he's not as good. He's not got the upside as Ojabo. Obviously, he's probably got more tools to go straight in now and be good, but he's also limited in what he can do. George Kalafdis, he's a big guy, and he can get to the quarterback. He's a bull rusher type, and he has got some moves, but he's quite limited and not one-dimensional. But he's not got what I see in David Ojabo yet. It might take till the end of the season or a year, but what David Ojabo can bring to that pass rushing game, you've seen some of his spin moves and stuff like that already in the game. He's going to be one of them freaks that's just so hard to stop getting it to the quarterback. And just for the upside in itself, I would take David Ojabo here.
The only other option really was Matt Corral. They're going to have to stop preparing for Matty Ryan. He was rubbish this year, to say the best. You know what I mean, though?
Yeah.
So it's quarterback versus athlete.
Yeah, this is what we were saying at the start. Where do you start looking at these quarterbacks and thinking?
I think this is the first point where I want to come off the board, Jordan, for me.
Yeah.
Right then, I'm going to make a decision. I'm going to go on value. I'm going to go for the quarterback. I'm going to take Matt Corral.
Just a quick one before I move on. Is Matt Corral... Do you see anywhere that Sam Howell would be picked up ahead of Matt Corral? Obviously it's quite tight. Or is Matt Corral, for you personally, the number one?
I think at this point they want to go for someone who is more palatable with the fan base. Sam Howell, for me, is the talent. I think people are going to look back at his tape and realise that all of his pieces went to the NFL. He did improve in the run game this year. He got over 1,000 yards. But I think Atlanta would have a mini riot if they did go quarterback and they didn't take the consensus number one quarterback, who I do think is Matt Corral on most boards. Although I'm all right with it being somebody like I would be all right with it being Sam Howell. I just think it's too high for him.
So that moves on to me for the Denver Broncos, who also really could do with a quarterback, themselves. We've said many occasions this year they maybe were a quarterback away from having a good run in the playoffs, at least getting there. I would have liked Matt Corral here, to be honest with you, and I would have, if you want to take him out, I would have snapped Matt Corral off straight away. Now I'm looking at the other quarterbacks and thinking, is there one is there any that we like as much as Matt Corral that can come in and definitely be better than some of them, better than Drew Lock? Or do we look at that in free agency? Offensive line, edge. But I kind of know where I'm going to go with this. I just want your thoughts quick, obviously. Obviously, you were saying that maybe Sam Howell's too high.
Do you know what is right? Sam Howell and Drew Lock are very similar players, aren't they? Although I think that Sam Howell is a better player. They've both got big arms. They're both athletic upside. Sam Howell has got that run threat. He has got a thicker body than Drew Lock. Whilst he's only 6'1", he can move behind that 6'1". He reminds me a little bit of Josh Allen, who we just saw tear it up for the Bills. I think that he is going to have some teething problems. Denver and their search for a quarterback, you know what I mean? God, how many have they drafted now, Jordan? Look, I'm going to leave it up to you, but yeah, I don't like. Denver's got a tough job here, like.
I do like what Carson Strong has, but the injury is a massive put off for me. I do like Carson Strong, but like I said, but I'm not really 100% happy about it, but I am going to take Sam Howell. I do like Sam Howell. I know what you're saying, but I do think he has the potential to be something good for him, to propel him, forward. Like I say, I'm not 100% happy with it, but I just think I've got to do it. I've got to take, I know there's Charles Cross there, but I don't think he's going to really fit into the, we know how Mississippi State run their offense, and it's not really going to fit into how Denver Broncos play. So I'm going to have to bite the bullet and take Sam Howell. Like I say, I'm not 100% happy, but I think it still is a good pick for him. It's potentially a good pick.
Yeah. Sam Howell it is. Denver go back to the quarterback well.
So now the Jets are back on with their second pick.
Draft Jets with their second pick. So they've took Stingley. They've got their cornerback position sorted. Now I'm going edge. I'm going to consider the guy who I talked about earlier. David Ojabo would be my pick here. He's probably the only one who I'm considering, Jordan.
Yeah, that's fair. They definitely need some pieces on defense. Too early for a wide receiver for them. Obviously,
given how deep this wide receiver class is, yeah, I'm going to go David Ojabo.
So we'll put David Ojabo in. Yeah, like I said, I'm a big fan of David Ojabo. I don't know when he's going to. It might take him some time to really get into. Might not see him until the back end of the season really come alive, even next season. But he is a real talent, a potential. Arguably, like you mentioned, a higher ceiling than Hutchinson. But yeah, I like that pick. And obviously, two defensive players for Saleh at the Jets. Leads us on to Washington, another team who could do with a quarterback, offensive line, could do with some, especially at the guard position, could do with some help. It's another tough one because although it might be too high, Malik Willis would be nice. Obviously they've got Tyler Heineke tied, so Tyler Heineke could potentially be there and start, because Malik Willis is with all the upside he's still got a lot to work on. You know, he's nowhere near the polished article, but his ceiling is high if he can reach it. So I am looking at Malik Willis here. You know, obviously Tyler Heineke's not gonna get you to the playoff stuff, but he's a solid quarterback for the time being. And obviously next time around with that, you could be picking quite high again. So I am considering Malik Willis, but obviously she also got Kenyon Green still there as well. So I don't know what your thoughts are on this. Like, I know you're a big Malik Willis fan.
I like Malik Willis until I watched him play Ole Miss. And I saw him turn the ball over 3 times that game, wasn't it? And struggled mightily. Now, it wasn't all on him. I mean, Liberty didn't really have the players to play against an SEC team like Ole Miss. But yeah, it would be bold. I don't think they're that bad at quarterback. I think that offensive tackle is probably a great need. I'd be more inclined to take Charles Cross personally. But again, Jordan, look, it's up to you. Who do you want to pick?
I am tempted with Willis and stuff and everything. I do like Charles Cross. I'm a big Kenyon Green fan. I think Kenyon Green will be massive improvement for them, like on that offensive line. I do like Charles Cross. I am going to stick with Kenyon Green. I do like Kenyon Green. I think he's a mauler in that middle and stuff. And I am tempted to go with this. I do like his upside, and I think with Ron Rivera, if he sit here and stuff just behind him, I suppose that is a risky with your first thing here. I'm going Kenyon Green. I'm slightly linked to guard.
Shock. Early for a guard to go, but, you know, he's a good player, Kenyon Green. He has got that outside-inside versatility as well, to be honest with you. So he could play a tackle at a pinch.
Vikings.
But it's still a shock. It's still a shock for me. I would have thought you would have went Charles Cross and you would have solidified that left tackle spot. But hey, it is what it is. You've gone Kenyon Green. Probably, if we're grading just guards, he's probably the best guard in the class. Okay, then that leaves me to the Minnesota Vikings. They've got a few needs. Mostly at secondary, inside defensive line could be a need. Oh, who have I got left on the board? So in secondary, I've got Andrew Booth Jr., who I really like. Really good feet, really good hips. Can play in zone and in press man. Armored Sauce Gardner. Very much going to be what's the scheme that they're going to be playing without, you know, like without Mike Zimmer there now. We don't know too much about their defensive hire. Who's going to be defensive coordinator? Because if you're playing Armored Gardner, you're going to want to make the use of him, which is to put him in press man, put him on an island, you know, like cover 1, cover 0, let him man up. I wouldn't want him dropping in zone too much, but I'd want to use his physicality at the line of scrimmage. So it boils down to these 2 corners for me. Andrew Booth Jr. or Sauce Gardner. I think I've got an idea of which one I'm going to pick, but I'll just flick it out to you quickly so you can discuss them too.
Yeah, I'm the top 5 cornerbacks, especially in this class, I really like. So obviously, like you mentioned, it's going to depend who goes and what schemes they fit in there. Obviously, if it's man or thingy, but obviously Andrew Sauce Gardner obviously can play zone as well. If there's a lot of man and plays a lot of zone, so I am more in favour. I do like Sauce Gardner, but I wouldn't grumble at either pick. I like them both. Like I say, I really like these top 5 cornerbacks.
Yeah. I'm going to go for Booth Jr. I really like Booth Jr. in this class. I think if Stingley's 1A, Booth Jr. is 1B. I really, really, really like this kid. Clemson produced very good corners. If their floor's Trayvon Mullen at the Raiders, their ceiling is someone like Terrell. You know what I mean? I think Booth Jr. is another good Clemson corner. Another one off the production line. Booth Jr. is going to be my pick, Jordan, for the Washington Redskins.
Yeah, he's had a good year this year, especially, and like
his really good player.
I like his length as well. You know, he's he's many a time gets up and gets the pass breakup. So yeah, so it's good pick for Minnesota. It'll be interesting to see who comes ahead, and head coach and where they go with it. So the Cleveland Browns are on the clock next, and I know where I'm going with this, so I'm not going to read too much into it. Obviously, they've got needs in a few areas, edge, wide receiver, offensive line's being good, but like cover-wise, a few of them are going on to free agency. Be interesting to see, obviously, if they bring them back and all that. So that's a different story. But I'm going to throw it over to you before I make the selection because I know where I'm going with this already.
I've got a feeling you're going to take the player I want to fall the fucking rails. You're going to take the wide receiver and you're going to take my favourite wide receiver. So I'm not going to say anything, but I'm guessing you're going to go wide receiver. Although personally, edge. No, I don't. Go on. Who are you going to pick?
I'm going to go wide receiver, but don't worry, you're safe. You're safe for now. I think you might. I'm just thinking of what they need there, and although the wide receiver that we're mentioning would be a good for him, it'd be nice for Baker Mayfield. I'm going to go Garrett Wilson. I think he's a threat at all three levels. He can get fantastic separation, and Baker Mayfield, we've seen how off target he is sometimes. So the more separation you get, the better it is for him. So I've gone Garrett Wilson, but I could have picked a couple of wide receivers here, but I think Garrett Wilson for them, all three levels of threat. I don't know what's going to happen with Landry, But
yeah, I think that
nice fit.
I think he's the consensus number one wide receiver at the moment, Garrett Wilson. He's a very, very good wide receiver, athletic, wins at all three levels, runs good routes. Yeah, I think it's a good decision that you've made, Jordan. Baltimore Ravens. Right then, Baltimore Ravens have a need at right tackle. The way Staley's been injured, they might have a need at left tackle. Charles Cross is looking at us right in the eye. He's the highest rated player on my board. Jordan Davis is also there. They need a nose in that system that they play. Someone who can push the pocket. Someone who can be on there. Jordan Davis improved as a pass rusher greatly this year. At the very least, he's going to occupy 2 blocks in that 3-4 system that they play. Right tackle, defensive tackle. Have a quick look at the Baltimore Ravens depth chart.
Well, I know that the defensive. I was looking at them the other day because I was doing a mock draft myself. My first one, and obviously they've got on the defensive line. They've got a couple of people who are getting quite old. I don't know if they're going to come back from. Obviously, you've got Calais Campbell, haven't you? And who was the other one I was looking at now that was like I can't remember who it was, but he's like you got Wolf, obviously, who traded and stuff like that. He's getting on a bit. Justin Houston as well.
Brandon Williams at the moment is their nose tackle, 32 years of age.
They're very old on that defensive line. That's one thing I picked up on.
Go on, I'm going to go for a young piece there. That's made me mind up. I'm going to go Davis.
Jordan Davis,
the mammoth from Georgia. Watch his tape. He will destroy you. The issue they're going to have with him is can they keep him motivated and can they keep his weight right? Because this kid will balloon to 380 pounds if it's not on. You know what I mean?
I think it's a big pick. That's a good pickup for the Ravens because obviously with the division they're in, he's a fantastic run stopper. He's going to be a beast for him.
6'6" and 340 pounds. This kid is Jordan.
He's blocking a few gaps, isn't he? He's not just blocking the one.
Yeah, he's huge. He's a mammoth. They've got to be careful though because in the off season this could be in the fridge, and he might turn up at training camp at 390 pounds. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But no, I like that pick. Obviously, you've got DeMarvin Leal on the board, but I like the Jordan Davis fit better at the Ravens. Yeah, I do like DeMarvin Leal.
Right in the middle of that D.
No, I like it. So that leads us on to the first of the Eagles picks. They've got 3 in the first round. Be interested to see if they use any of these for trades. Leading up to the draft. But as it stands now, we're not obviously doing any trades. We don't know what free agency is. So another name that stands out to me straight away there. They need help on defense. They've got cornerback, linebacker. Obviously, we picked Linderbaum early. I don't know if Linderbaum would have lasted this long, but obviously it looks like Kelsey's probably going to retire, so that would have been a fantastic pickup for one of these 3 picks they've got in the next 5. Well, obviously he's gone, so I'm looking at defense really, showing him up. I know there's talk of Jalen Hurts, but there's no point. You might as well stick with Jalen Hurts and see move forward with him. Give him another year. Like he's done well in spades, but I don't think he's the answer going forward. But that defense needs some work. I don't know how you feel about that, Mark.
I think that they might use these picks to try and get somebody like Deshaun Watson. I don't think that Deshaun Watson going to Philadelphia is a very real possibility. You might see this pick in the hands of the Houston Texans by the time draft day comes around. Because where they're situated, the Eagles, they've got to think we're not going to get a quarterback that we really want here. Is there one in this draft that's better than Jalen Hurts? And I think that you might see them trade some picks away. And I think that Deshaun Watson end up in Philadelphia is a very real possibility. I really do.
Yeah, that's a fair. That's the beauty of these 3 picks. They can explore a lot of different things. Like I saw talk of Calvin Ridley going for a first star and things like that. But obviously, it is questionable what his state's at the moment. But they've got basically what I'm trying to say. They've got loads of options. They've got. They're in a really good position, Philadelphia. But obviously, I'm going to just select a pick, and I'm going to go cornerback, and I'm going to go Sauce Gardner. I think he obviously we've seen what he's like in man. He can play zone, and Eagles do play a lot of mixture of that. A lot of it they play man, but he is versatile. And I think it'd be a nice. Well, we saw what the cornerbacks. You've got Slay there, who's okay. I think they're lacking a number 1 cornerback. They've got Maddox, so I think Ahmed Garner, maybe not straight away, could be that lockdown number 1 for him.
Yeah, I know you've went Gardner. Personally, I think that the Eagles lined up deep in zone more than anybody else in the NFL this year. I know that when they played us, the commentators were going crazy just how deep their cornerbacks were lining up and just how much yardage they were letting off under the bottom. I don't think it's necessarily his best place to land, but I do not question the kid's talent. Maybe if they had someone like him, they might play a bit more press man. I understand you picked Jordan. I totally understand it. I just don't know the fit. But look, we're always going to have this debate with Gardner. Personally, I think Gardner and somewhere like New England would be absolutely unreal. The amount of man coverage they play and how often they put people on an island. Imagine Gardner lining up on that team, you know what I mean, Jordan?
Yeah.
I think that's a really good fit for Gardner, New England. But in this case, you've took him for Philadelphia. I don't think people would complain. You know what I mean? The kid's got talent. You know what I mean? It's just I think he's better in man situations.
Philadelphia Eagles back on the clock again with number 16, luxury.
Right, so I've got this pick this time. And they do need an edge, and Karlaftis is there. I'm going to go for value. I'm going to take the highest player on the board. I'm going to take Karlaftis. But before I do, what do you think about Karlaftis? I know he's a very good power rusher.
That's what it is like. I think he's good at getting into the backfield. He's someone that I need to watch a lot more tape, and I've only seen him through the season when I've watched Purdue. But I don't think he gets into the backfield consistently, but it's all power. It's and that's fine. But is he going to be able to use this power constantly in the NFL up against bigger tackles? He will win some, but I think he just needs to add a little bit more, polish to his game. But I still like the kid. I think he's fantastic. He's a mammoth of a player.
Yeah, he's 6'4", 275 pounds. He's got an NFL body straight away. The football that Philadelphia play, he can kick inside and he can play inside outside potential. He had a really good grade by PFF. He is strong. You know what I mean, though? Whilst he's not going to be like a 15 sack a season guy, I think he is going to be an 8 to 10 sack a season guy. And I think they should be quite happy that they've got that guy, So George Karlaftis is the pick.
Yeah. So the Chargers.
Well, at number 17, I'm surprised to still see Charles Cross on the board. I am. He's still there. A couple of other names who might be worthy of note. Kenny Pickett, the quarterback from Pittsburgh, is still there. DeMarvin Leal, the inside defensive lineman from Texas A&M. And the linebacker, N'Kobe Dean and Devin Lloyd, are still on the board. So, yeah, I mean, there's a few names there for you, Jordan. No, I'm a little bit surprised that none of them have gone off. So the Chargers are on the board. Which direction would you go?
Yeah. Obviously, Herbert could do with some protection. We've got edge. But I kind of know there's a player there that I didn't know if he'd be on the board yet. I thought there might be a run on this position, and he's still there. So I do like that, even though it's not the most pressing need. I just like him very much, and I'm sure you would agree. Wide receiver Keenan Allen's just not been on the field at the moment, is he? And obviously, I know Williams has stepped up, and obviously, Garrett Wilson's gone, but you've got a good pick of wide receivers there and stuff. So, what they've got some good options here, haven't they? The Chargers, in which way to go?
I mean, they're losing Mike Williams, so if you're going to go wide receiver, I think that they've got somebody in Keenan Allen who can do that short and intermediate stuff. I think they need somebody who can go deep and threaten deep. You need someone who's a height and speed specimen. So I'm thinking Treylon Burks is a really dangerous downfield target. And Christopher Olave, who's got fucking track speed at Ohio, is another really good deep target. Drake London is a player I absolutely love. But I think he does his best work short, intermediate, and yards after carry. So I think looking at what they want and look at what they're losing, they've got underneath receivers in Austin Eckler. They've got an underneath receiver in Keenan Allen. What they're looking for is somebody who's a downfield receiver in that case, who can take place of Mike Williams. So I'm thinking Treylon Burks or Christopher Olave. I'm sure you're thinking Drake London. And I'm not trying to convince you out of it, even though I would fucking hate to see Drake London playing for the LA Chargers against us. But I think if they are going to go wide receiver, which I think you are, they're going to need somebody who can stretch that field, especially with Herbert's arm.
No, you're okay. Drake London's staying there. I was just messing. But and the guy I'm picking, I know you like him as well. It's the first guy you mentioned, Treylon Burks. I think he's these wide receivers. If anyone goes off the board, and obviously they've got different ways they play and stuff, and not like you say, Drake London's big bodied guy, contested catches, unbelievable. He don't get much separation at times, but he doesn't need it. Drake London, he's just that. His hands are ridiculous.
Can I just say something before you make this pick?
Go.
How disappointing is it that Jameson Williams is injured? Because he would have been ideal here. He would have been exactly what they're looking for, a field stretch out bit, you know what I mean? And if you hadn't done his knee, you know what I mean? No, this would have been a great landing spot for someone like him. But Treylon Burks I love Treylon Burks. Yeah. I'm gutted because Treylon Burks is my second wide receiver, which means if Drake London goes, I'm going to be devastated, you know what I mean?
Yeah, obviously if Kenyon Green was still here, that might have been an option at guard, But I love Treylon Burks, and you're exactly right with Jameson Williams. The injuries has hurt his stock a bit, but he's he's unbelievably speedy, But I love all these top wide receivers, in different ways. But Treylon Burks, his hand size is unbelievable, contested catch, and you can use him in different ways as well. He's a bit. I wouldn't say that definitely use him as a gadget player, but he has got that upside to him as well.
He's such a talent, Treylon Burks. He's brilliant.
Yeah,
I really like him.
So that leaves us with the Saints for you now. Saints. Wow, where do you go here?
We've got the Saints in. I need to explore their needs a little bit. I'm thinking what do they need off the top of my head. Okay, so Burks has gone. I need to catch up on me simulator. Who did I take? I took Carl Aftis, didn't I? With Philadelphia Eagles. So I'm just going to put that in. And then we've got Burks going off at the Chargers, what a great pick that is, Jordan. You know, I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, what a great pick that is for the Chargers. Right then, I'm up to the Saints now, right? Okay then. So the Saints needs quarterback, wide receiver, cornerback, edge, inside defensive line. Right then. Wide receiver. Well, look, they've got Jameson Winston and they've got Taysom Hill. I think I'm going to go quarterback, Jordan. I think I'm going to go quarterback for them. Kenny Pickett's there. Kenny Pickett is a bit of a, you know, he's a fast riser, but he is very accurate. He has got a good arm. He can be mobile. Got a little bit of the Drew Brees to him, if truth be told. No, he's got a little bit of the Drew Brees to him. I'm thinking this might be a really good spot for Kenny Pickett to come off. I know there's worries about his hand size and everything like that, but look, he's very polished. He was a redshirt senior, so he's coming in at the same age as Joe Burrow did when he came in. He's had a fast rise. On many boards, people have QB number 1. I'm going to go Kenny Pickett here, John. I'm going to go Kenny Pickett.
No, it's a weird one, isn't it? Because obviously they do need a quarterback. Just a question. Sean Payton don't mind a trade up. If you do see, obviously the draft's a weird thing. If you do see a run on quarterbacks up with a few teams up there, do you think he'll stick with and give Jameson another year? And obviously you've got Ian Buck, who's not, and Trevor Seaman. Would he trade up and go get one of these ones if he feels like he needs to?
I think he could, but in this situation, I think he could just sit tight and could get one of Sam Howell, Matt Corral, or Kenny Pickett. In this case, he's got Pickett. Would he have to jump up? Would he have to? Would he be happy taking a Malik Willis if he fell there at this point? You know what I mean? No, personally, I think I would just keep my powder dry and sit and play the waiting game. I think this year you will see a quarterback slide. And if it's Kenny Pickett at 18, God, you know, like there's a hair to split them top 3. Why not take a punt on it?
Yeah. I think Pittsburgh might be upset. You know, I think they wouldn't want Kenny Pickett and keeping him there. But Eagles on the clock with the 3rd pick of the first round. And we've gone, obviously, defense with a cornerback and edge. Are they really going to go for a wide receiver again, or are they going to look at maybe trading one of these picks out for one free agency? Because it's not been, obviously Smith's done okay this year. Going forward, we'll see. But Jalen Reagor's been an absolute flop, and you know they've not been the best at picking up wide receivers. Obviously, he won the first round. I think he was 2nd round. Arcega-Whiteside. He's not been great. Do you risk picking up a wide receiver here with what you've got on the board? It's an option. Also, they've got the choice of the linebackers there as an option, you know, to go defense. Would you go wide receiver again if you were the Eagles, Mark?
No, I'd go linebacker. I'd take your pick of the two lads staring at us in the face.
That's exactly what I'm going to do. Like, I obviously it is a temptation to go wide receiver because they just haven't got what they wanted out of there. You know, they've got Goddard and Smith. But like I said, we've got free agency. You know, there's going to be some wide receivers out there that we can maybe pick up, you know, with experience. But I'm probably going to, I know you like them both, but I'm going to go Devin Lloyd. You know, again, he's probably thinking, oh, it's another Pac-12 player we're going before. Thinking, I do like Nakobe Dean. And I know you've got your concerns, Devin Lloyd, in coverage, but I do think he is decent at coverage. But stopping the run for the Eagles, you know, is a big thing. And I think he's so good at getting up to the line and filling them holes. He's so fast. And I think he does have
really small linebacker.
I do think he does have the coverage in him and stuff, and especially if he can work on that and get it better. I don't think he's bad in it yet. A lot of room to work, but I don't think he's as bad as some people think. And if Nakobe Dean, if I'd pick Nakobe Dean as well, it's fine. I like them both. I don't think it's a bad thing either way. But I've just gone personally. I've gone for Devin Lloyd with the Eagles.
I think he's good. I think Devin Lloyd's good. He never gets blocked. Is one thing I noticed. He never gets blocked on the second level. He can get off blocks and make tackles. He can blitz. He can cover. I've seen him cover out the backfield and I've seen him cover tight ends. I think that Devin Lloyd, yeah, I think it's a great pick, Jordan. I think it's a really good pick that you've made there. I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
Steelers.
Whew. Steelers. Another team who need a quarterback. I'm going to say this now, right? I think the Steelers are a really good fit for Jimmy Garoppolo. If he gets traded from the San Francisco 49ers, I think he'll suit what they want to do. You know what I mean? They've got somebody like Harris, who they want to run the ball with. They've got players who are like Deontay Johnson and stuff like that, who can get open at different levels. And I do think that Garoppolo would be a good sign-in for them. And I do think he's one of the destinations that he could end up with Pittsburgh. Let's face it, can't start Rudolph. They can't start Haskins, So in this scenario, the quarterbacks have gone anyway. Gonna take someone like Malik Willis. I'm not going there. They do need an offensive tackle. And Charles Cross is there. I'm surprised he's still there. So that's what I'm thinking. Thinking offensive tackle. I'm going to take Charles Cross.
Yeah, I like Charles Cross. Like I said, he's left tackle, especially this year.
I'm surprised he's there.
I can't remember what the stat was, but he had an unbelievable stat with like how many pressures he'd give up, and it's very little. For that Mississippi State, offense. He's good. I really like him. I think he'll definitely go higher than what we've got him, obviously. But it's just the way it's all fallen. And
only let 14 hurries this year. 14 hurries. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So pressures is going to be less than that. 14 hurries.
Yeah, I knew it was. I think he's had a fan. He's been good for a few years, but this year he's really come on. So it's the Patriots. So the Patriots, obviously, one thing when I was looking through, I know that they're aging on defense, on a few areas, and although like they've got certain areas as needs, that they're looking at, they've got like safety, cornerback, defensive tackle. There's an area that's not a need that I'm looking at because I remember looking at it and I'm thinking they have got a lot of aging players there and a few of them coming out of contract, which I'm not sure if they'll renew. So before I jump into it, I think I know where I'm going with it, but I'm pretty confident I know where I'm going. What do you think about the Patriots?
I think they need to find a corner. They've obviously got a really good one. You know what I mean, though? But they need somebody opposite him. Ahmed Gardner would have been so good, yeah, if he fell. I think they need a safety. I think they need defensive players. You know what I mean? Like you said, they just got hammered by the Bills in the playoffs. And I think they're going to want you've got to build to win your division. Right, which means they like to run the ball as well. So I'm looking... I personally would be looking to find someone opposite J.C. Jackson or somebody in the safety position.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, Mark. I agree, but I just look at this position and they've got some aging players there, and they're coming to the end of the contract. And I'm just thinking ahead. Maybe I'm thinking ahead, and I might turn out to be totally wrong here. They might bring them back, some of the players like Hightower and things like that. But I'm going to go Nakobe Dean. I just think that he's not going to bring these players back, and I think Nakobe Dean will add that strength in that linebacker area. He's such a good player, laterally across the field. He's so good with his lateral movement, like in the run. And like maybe like in about a month's time, I'll be thinking, yeah, that were not the pick after all. But I'm just thinking ahead and thinking, I know Dante Howard's coming to the end of his contract. He's getting on a bit. Van Noy. Josh Uche had a decent year this year, so pairing him up with Nakobe Dean. But I do agree that cornerback, is something that they should really look at. But I'm going to go with Nakobe Dean.
Right, Nakobe Dean, you would be good in that system, wouldn't he? Oh,
yeah.
Whew. Imagine Nakobe Dean. Like a heat seeker. I love him as well. I love his attitude. I get it. I get the pick, Jordan. Right, the Raiders running to the podium. We're sprinting to the podium. If it was me, I'd be running. We need an X receiver. We need somebody who can get off press. We need someone who can catch the ball off a short route, like what Derek Carr likes to throw. I'm thinking that Derek Carr's going to be there next year. Brian Edwards looked nothing like Terrell Owens. He could be a role player. I love this kid. You know, he was like Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Year. He only played 8 games. You've obviously seen a lot of him being a Pac-12 fan with Washington. I've seen enough of him to go, I want him. I definitely want him. So I would, look, Christopher Olive does actually hold some, intrigue because he can win deep. And we lost so much when Henry Ruggs came out. So there is some consideration for Chris Olive there. And look, the way that the Raiders draft seniors, I wouldn't be surprised if they do pick Olive. Personally, though, I want this kid because he's a brute. I want him because he's a yards after catch machine. He's a big body. He's hard to bring down. I just love Drake London. I think he might be my wide receiver 1. So Christopher Olive or Drake London, Jordan, before I make the pick, and you know who it's going to be, I'm going to put them 2 names to you. And what do you think?
Like I mentioned earlier, I love these top 5, and then even outside, there's some good wide receivers. Even after you get these top out of the way, these 5 that are like high in the rankings, there's some good ones after. But I absolutely love Drake London. I think, obviously, even if it's going to be Carr or someone else, he's so much more than a safety blanket. But you can actually just wang it up there, and he's going to come down with the ball. He's so physical in the air. You know, the amount of times that I saw USC just run a curl route and it straight into his arms, and it's just 8+ yards. It just constantly. It's just. I think we're seeing 10, 11 targets a game constantly, and obviously it would have been easily on for a record-breaking Pac-12 apart from his injury. But I love him, and I think he's just going to be such a good player wherever he goes. Obviously, it'd be such a compliment for what you've got already there as well. You know, with Renfro and things like that.
He was so dominant in those 8 games, Jordan. You know, like he was dominant. And I just think, it made me lick my lips. And I watched his tape and I was like, Jesus wept. Yeah, he was uncoverable. And I was like, I could just imagine him. And he's still a good route runner. You would think he's such a big lad, he would be poor at routes. And obviously he's not going to separate like a 5'8" Hunter Renfro does. But he gets separation at the top of his route. And like you said, contested catches, there's only one person winning that ball. You know what I mean? So, I just think it could be a red zone weapon. He could be definitely improve our red zone, to be honest with you. And that's one of the reasons why I'm picking him, because we're poor in the red zone. I'm going to go Drake London.
Yeah, good pick. You know, like I say, Chris Olave is no notch on Chris Olave and what he can do, but I just think that Drake London is a nice pick for the Raiders. You know, like with what they've already got there and stuff. And he's just throw it up to him. Imagine having London and then Waller on either side. Jesus. Then Renfro down centre. Just need to sort out your offensive line now, and you'll be all right, won't you?
Yeah, I'm not taking another tackle. We can't draft tackles. We better bloody find them in free agency.
So, moves on to my final pick, and it's the Arizona Cardinals. There's one need that's massive standout for me for the Arizona Cardinals. I don't know if you think the same. Like, obviously, there's there's other needs as well, but there's one standout for me. I don't know if you're on the same wavelength as me.
Well, cornerback, I'm guessing you're thinking.
Yeah. And there's two. There's obviously, I know you're a big fan of Kyle Elam from Florida. There's him still there. You've got Trent McDuffie, another guy I really like.
And they've had success from Washington Huskies, but I bet.
And I do like Elam, but that's what I'm thinking myself. I picked him on my mock draft. Obviously, Elam had gone anyway, but I just like the McDuffie fit. Obviously, he's a bit shorter than other cornerbacks, but he's so physical and like he's testing. It's another thing we didn't mention at the top. When it comes down to the combine, people are going to shoot up and stuff when they see how freaky some of these. And I think Trent McDuffie's that guy. There's one play that you see where he's at one side of the pitch, and if he gets over in a couple of seconds, he's so twitchy and fast, you know. So I don't know how you feel about this.
He's so fast, McDuffie. He's like a bullet.
Yeah, he is. He's ridiculous. And normal in my list, I've got Elam above McDuffie, but I just like McDuffie fit better for the Cardinals. If I don't know if you agree with that, but that's what I'm going to go with.
I like Elam, and I also like McCreary. And I think in the SEC, they're better tested. McDuffie's 5'11", has inside-outside potential. But look, they've had such success with Washington Husky secondary players. Budd Baker, Byron Murphy. Well, they might just go, let's get another one from there because we know what we're getting.
There's the last pick, the Dallas Cowboys, who went out with a whimper at the weekend.
So you went McDuffie with
some nice players still there, isn't there? You know what I mean? You got. I don't know what the Cowboys' needs are. Obviously,
well, they need an edge, and they need a safety. God, do they need a safety? So edge, DeMarvin Leal, he's an option. Make him play inside out.
Because that's the beauty of Marvin Lee. I was going to say he's not. They've got you put him down for tackle, but he can play across that line.
And then you've got Daxton Hill at Michigan, 5-star athlete, junior, versatile, really productive. He was a 5-star prospect. They play a lot of cover 3 with Dan Quinn as well, and he would be brilliant in cover 3. Can play free safety, can play nickel. Really, really smart. Great IQ. I'm just looking down what I've got with him here on my laptop, what I'll put down in my Word document. Awesome tackler. Really good at coming down the body. Throws himself around with reckless abandon. He fills running lanes. He brings down bigger ball carriers. Really good single high. Can come down, make plays on the ball. Started at nickel. Playing outside corner. Sure, he's good in coverage. That's what I've got down from. And I've got 5-star plus athlete. 4.3 speed. 4.3 speed. You know what I mean? On the back end. I really like that fit. I really like Daxton Hill. And I like him more than DeMarvin Leal. Daxton Hill is a name to watch out for in this combine. He's going to run fast. He's going to impress a lot of people. He may not be a common household name yet. I promise you, he will be by draft day. 6 foot, just under 200 pounds. He might need to put a bit weight on. But I don't know what you think about Daxton Hill, but I've got a severe crush for him.
No, what I must have I haven't seen Daxton Hill that much. I've seen him in a few games this year, but what I have seen of him, he's a good safety. I do like a different camp. I do like Briscoe. He's fast. Daxton Hill. Yeah, Louis Sainz, another guy from Georgia who's shot up after a few games at the back end. Yeah, but I do like Daxton Hill. He's very athletic for a safety, and getting across field and making plays. So Cowboys could go a few ways. So I do like that pick. And there's
I'm going to save the last pick of the draft for one of my favourite players. Then I'm going to put Daxton Hill in there for the Cowboys.
That completes the 24 picks that we've done. Is it just before we go? Is there any surprises that were still on the board?
I mean, some people would be along that. DeMarvin Liam's still there, Leal's still there, Chris Olive's still there, Jameson Williams is still there. I think the injury is going to affect his stock. All in all, though, I think that's pretty much good value what we've seen there. You know what I mean, Jordan? I'm just looking at PFF Sport as I've been putting them in. Cartier, Elam, and Jameson Williams are the next 2 best players. And then they've got Chris Olive as a 20th ranked. So we haven't went too far off what actual PFF ratings are. I was trying not to look at it as I was going along. Daxton Hill going in. He's actually the 24th ranked player for them, I think. So I put him on value. I don't think that we've done too bad. Quarterbacks, Desmond Ridder's still there. Jameson Williams, I think, is the biggest name that's still there. But it's that injury, Jordan. It's that injury.
Yeah, it's definitely going to hurt his draft stock, and we've seen it with a few players in the past. But because we still don't know how long he's going to be out for. He might miss a lot. You're not going to draft him on that high if he's going to be out for 6-7 weeks of the season. So it's definitely going to affect him. But I think Kyle Elam not being off the board, maybe a surprise more than DeMarvin Leal. Obviously, defensive tackles, you don't see too many go too early. So, but like we said, DeMarvin Leal can play across. So, but a lot of things are going to change, like we mentioned. Obviously, you've got the combine, you've got the Senior Bowl, you've got a lot of stuff to happen for people to shoot up and shoot down. We see it all the time, don't we? So, this a lot of these players will stay at the top of the market, but there might be a few that burst in. So this, the top 32 when it's all said and done.
Yeah. It was a good event, this, Jordan. We got in an hour and a half. We said we'd be on an hour.
You can't help it when you're talking about draft prospects.
I love it. I hope that will give the viewers something to think about and some names to think about, which is all we're doing at this stage, because free agency is yet to happen. We're just looking, free agency is going to change a hell of a lot of things, obviously. But I think the thing is to give people names that they can go out and watch and they can get familiar with at this stage. And I think that's what we've done, Jordan.
Yeah, I agree. It's been fun. I always love a draft, and I love talking draft prospects. Hopefully, we can try and get on more than we have been doing. And next week, maybe we can look at them free agency players that are out there. I think when I was looking before, there's quite a lot. Obviously, some will be brought back, but there's going to be some big names out there that will be looking for deals.
Yeah. You're looking for a wide receiver. Allen Robinson's going to be out there. Michael Gallup's going to be out there. It's going to be talent. There's going to be talent this year, Jordan.
Yeah, it's only just getting started, so there's so much to look forward to. So, yeah, thanks for coming on, Mark. Thank you for Bones for behind the scenes. Hopefully, Bones will be well enough next week to jump on, and it's been a blast, and we'll, fingers crossed, we're going to try our best to see you next week.